Hello everyone, Bob here. Today I'm going to talk about the first sequel to John Carpenter's 1978 classic, Halloween 2. Halloween 2 came out in 1981, and it was a direct continuation of the original. It takes place the same night. It picks up immediately after the first one left off, though that wasn't originally the case. One of John Carpenter's earliest ideas for the film was that it would take place sometime later, and Laurie would be living in a high-rise, and Michael would have followed her there. The plot picks up almost immediately, like I said, after the first one lets off. In fact, the pre-credits is basically a recap of the very end of the first one, in that where Michael comes to and attacks Laurie after being stabbed in the eye, and Loomis coming up the stairs and shooting Michael 6 times, and he falls out the balcony and he's gone. But of important note, if you listen to the audio in Halloween 2, you actually count 7 shots, so that was a little bit of an error there, but that's kind of funny. But and then there's a scene. There is a new scene before the credits where Loomis goes down and puts his hand down where Michael landed and feels where there was blood. And the neighbor comes out and wants to know what's going on, and said he's been trick-or-treated to death. And Loomis says, "You don't know what death is." And of course, then we have the opening credits. It's almost a recreation of the iconic opening credits to the original, in which the camera zoom in on the pumpkin, except this time the pumpkin opens up and there's a skull inside. After the credits are over, there is a wandering point of view shot that we come to the conclusion that it is Michael. He steals a knife from an elderly couple that live down the street. You can hear the police sirens in the background. There's a news report on TV about the killings, and Michael kills a young teenager that lives next door to the elderly couple, and she hears about it on the radio. But all these news reports are important, because that tells Michael later on where Laurie Strode is, because they report that she has been taken to Haddonfield Medical Center to recover from her injuries. The majority of Halloween 2 is therefore Michael stalking the hospital and picking off the hospital staff one by one, and eventually attacking Laurie and chasing her. And Loomis is with a cop, and they're looking around for Michael. Now, Dr. Loomis is being helped out by a deputy, Officer Hunt, because Sheriff Brackett, who was the sheriff in the original, takes the rest of the night off to go home and quote-unquote tell his wife before someone else does, since Annie Brackett, who was one of Laurie's friends that was killed in the original, was one of the victims, and he identified the body, and so he was going to see about that. And of course, at the time, they thought, so there's this person walking towards Loomis and Hunt's car earlier in the movie, or not Loomis and Hunt, Loomis and Brackett's car, and this other cop crashes into him, and it bursts into flames, and he burned. He had a white mask on, similar to what Michael's wearing, so there for a while they think Michael's dead. And because of that, that's another reason why the sheriff goes in and takes the rest of the night off, because he thinks the whole ordeal's over, when in actuality it isn't. A state trooper and the woman that was with Dr. Loomis when they're getting ready to transport Michael in the first one show up, and they're been ordered to bring Loomis back to Smith's Grove by the governor, because they think it looks bad or whatever. And that is when the nurse that was with him reveals to Loomis that Laurie is actually Michael's sister. Now, if you remember, when I was talking about those deleted scenes, those deleted scenes included, or not deleted scenes, those alternate scenes for the TV version had where he'd written sister on the wall. So that's another layer of that. But that's when they know where they go to the hospital, because they realize Laurie is at the hospital, and that's probably where Michael's headed. Anyway, they get there just in time to save Laurie from Michael temporarily, and the state trooper is killed, and Loomis sends the nurse, out to the car to radio for help that they found Michael, and Michael chases Loomis and Laurie, who are the only two people left inside the hospital at this point, other than some babies and stuff that Michael doesn't bother, but they chase him down into the hospital, and they chase him into an exploratory surgery room where Loomis pulls all the ether and oxygen hoses and blasts Michael. Of course, this is after Laurie has shot Michael's eyes out, and Michael is going back and forth swinging at somebody as blood runs down out of the eye holes on the mask. But Loomis says it's time, Michael. Flicks the lighter. Big explosion. Michael comes walking out. Drops. At the time, it makes it look very much like Michael's dead. Now, Halloween 2 was filmed in 1981 and released in October of 81, 3 years after the original. John Carpenter had absolutely no desire to come back and make a sequel to Halloween, but he was obligated to, and he absolutely definitely didn't want to direct, but him and Deborah Hill did write a script, one that now he says he's not happy with, but he definitely was adamant that he wasn't going to direct. His first choice was the Tommy Lee Wallace, who had helped with the first Halloween film. In fact, Tommy Lee Wallace is the one that came up with the original shape mask, Michael Myers mask. And after he read the script, he was not thrilled with it, so he ultimately passed. And the choice of directors ultimately fell to Rick Rosenthal, and he made his version of the film more closely resembles the TV cut, because John Carpenter came in and filmed certain sequences and edited them into the film and re-edited the film to get what we know as the theatrical cut. Rick Rosenthal's version in the TV cut is more close to what the TV cut is, and it features several alternate scenes. Now, as I mentioned in my Scream Factory Halloween box set unboxing, the 15-disc set does include the television version, as does the standalone releases of Halloween 2 from Scream Factory. The television version is ultimately just a little shorter. A lot of the scenes are shortened up to run faster so that it fits through in the time slot, as long as some alternate scenes, alternate shots, stuff like that, for a full breakdown on, because there are several differences. It's not like the first film where it's just 2 or 3 scenes that are several minutes in length. It's several smaller scenes, so for a full list, you can find them pretty readily. Just Google it. But there are several differences between the television cut and the theatrical cut. With that being said, I much prefer the theatrical cut. As you will see in my later videos featuring films from the Halloween franchise, the timeline for this series is very messed up, and it's almost a choose-your-own-adventure, because there are multiple different paths that multiple different timelines that you can take, and I will point them out as we go. But for now, Halloween flows into Halloween 2. Of course, Halloween 2018, the new film that, the latest film that's actually been released to us since Halloween Kills has been delayed for a full year, retcons this film from the timeline. It technically does not exist in that timeline. But for now, Halloween 2, starting Halloween 2 follows Halloween 1 perfectly. In fact, many times when right after I've watched Halloween 1, I want to put in Halloween 2 and watch it because it feels like a natural continuation. In fact, the first time I saw these films was on a USA Up All Night back in the 90s. I was like in 2nd or 3rd grade. And they were back to back, one right after the other. And to me, these films, that's the best way to watch them. 2 is even though it isn't as good as the original, but few films are. It feels there's enough involvement from Carpenter and the same cinematographer and the same production team in general as there was on the first one. It feels like it's a natural continuation of the movie. Now, different people have their own opinions about different plot elements in this, namely the brother-sister angle. That's open to debate. But for me, whenever I watch Halloween 2 is a natural successor in that. To me, I will never be able to fully say, okay, right after Halloween, you have to go to Halloween 2018. That's perhaps my biggest issue with these new films. I dislike. I mean, I get that was the only way to get around the brother-sister angle, but I will always like the Halloween 2 timeline, whichever timeline you follow after that. Now it will make more sense after I get on with some of the rest of the franchise, but before the month's over, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So in this film, Michael kills 9 people. He kills Alice Martin, who is next door neighbor to the old people that I mentioned in my plot. He kills Mr. Garrett, who's a security guard at the hospital. He kills Bud, who's an ambulance driver. He kills Nurse Karen, who is his girlfriend. He kills Dr. Mixter, Nurse Janet, Nurse Alves, Nurse Jill, and U.S. Marshal, who he slits the throat there right before the climactic chase at the very end of the film. There is also one other death in the film, Ben Tramer. I mentioned him in my overview of the plot. A police officer accidentally runs into him and pins him between 2 vehicles, and there's an explosion, and he burns to death. So the grand total kill count for this film is 10. 9 by Michael, so that makes Michael's running total 14. Okay, so Halloween 2, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. In my opinion, it is a very good sequel to one of the greatest horror films ever made. It's still a fun movie to watch, even at almost 40 years old. It came out October 30th of 1981. It didn't make near as much as the original did, but it still outgrossed other horror sequels that came out in 1981, such as Friday the 13th Part 2, and it was it was a success in its own right. It was sold to Universal, and so they released Halloween 2 and 3 are Universal owns the rights to them. That is one of the big deals with this franchise, is different companies own the rights to the different entries in it. So that's why the fact that we even got the box sets we did, I find it incredibly amazing. But again, 8 out of 10 for this film. It's a solid sequel. It feels like a natural continuation when you watch it. And whenever I watch the first one, I immediately want to put in the second one. In fact, that's how I first showed these films to my wife. I showed Halloween, and then we immediately put in Halloween 2. So for me, Halloween followed by Halloween 2 is the best way to watch these 2 films. Well, that's all I've got for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Here in a couple days, we'll take a look at the one Halloween film that stands way apart from the rest in this franchise, and I'll explain why next time. I am, of course, talking about Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like, and please consider subscribing to this channel. And hit that bell notification so you know when the next video is online. I try to have new content daily. Doesn't always work that way, but that is my goal, and for the most part, I get it done. Follow me on Facebook or Twitter. Just search for Bob the Film Guy. And for now, this is Bob, signing off.